Hey folks, MasakoX here. As you should know, this latest story within the Dragon Ball Super manga is most likely getting to the point where you could easily think that the endgame is beginning to head our way. It's that time of the saga again. Speculation time! We know that we're slowly approaching the end of the Granolah the Survivor arc, and with its ups and downs that have been mostly down lately, sadly, but with the occasional up, one of our regulars from the What If Roundtable, MrMannyFesto, wanted to know how we could possibly redeem the arc in our eyes and what are our hopes for it. You know what? We like this idea. Besides, the recent trend for our videos seems to make it look like that we don't like the arc. We do! We feel like overall it's really refreshing, and to see the chance of the story evolving in a good direction is great. But the recent incidents in the story have sort of undermined its own remit, and it just made the experience feel rather galling is all. But we feel that way because we care, dang it. On the whole, we've really been positive about it. Sometimes when we squawk the loudest, that gets the most attention, unfortunately. And I'm sure that rereading the whole story in one go will be a better experience than just every month, just as it was with Morrow. And we will aim to do a re-review as a singular piece and see whether it holds up. And it most likely will. The monthly release schedule seems to really spoil the fun for all concerned. I still don't understand why we have it this way. Surely 2-week releases would be better to keep the hype going, or at least reduce the vitriol of a particularly duff chapter, because it's okay. We've only got to wait a couple of weeks for the next one, so let's talk about it, shall we? To ensure that the overall story can have a soft landing and something that I think will appeal to the largest contingent of the audience. What does the saga need to do in order to stick said landing? And what we hope to see in the conclusion that seems to be pretty close is what we'll talk about, since the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie is right around the corner, despite the hack. For you, we have 7 different outcomes for you to consider, and in the pinned comment, I've left a poll for you to vote on and see which one you like the most. Or you can leave your feedback for us in the comments as well, and maybe leaving a cheeky like and subscribing for more content. All set? Let's go. Number 1, keep some of the Heeters alive. We can't help it. Despite them falling into the usual villain tropes as of late, we really do like these guys. And we feel that they may gain some interesting uses for future plots that will come our way if, after seeing their eldest brother for what he really is, resonates with them, and they choose to break away from him. We reckon that Oil, Maki, and even Gas could, in some form, turn against Alec after realizing the truth of his actions. He doesn't really care about their well-being. All he cares about is them doing things the way he wants them to go. And if they fail or do not meet their expectations, he can easily replace them or treat them with utter contempt, making their lives miserable. Hardship and struggles reveal people's true colours. And up until now, the Heeters have had everything go their way for decades. Also, we don't have that many neutral characters in Dragon Ball right now, so it would be very interesting to see the trio pop up again as possible future allies for the Z Fighters. Of course, when the situation benefits them. Maybe they could embrace the idea of rebuilding planets for more selfless reasons this time instead of being purely financial ones. Who knows? But they certainly do have potential going for them, beyond the pages of just this saga, and it could really help their overall character arcs if they get the chance to do more for themselves. Make them feel like more than just being flunkies of Alec. Really develop their core personalities. Maki is quite charismatic, Oil is endearing in his own special way, and Gas, well, let's say that he needs to find his voice. If they're just offed without a chance to find a new path, they'll most likely be remembered as being kinda boring. That is, if they're remembered at all. Alternatively, if they wind up being arrested by the Galactic Patrol, it could give us some hope that they might return later. If the Galactic Prison keeps being filled up with new mooks in every single saga going forward, maybe one day we could see a Sinister Six type of thing forming. Perhaps some of the lesser villains could want to take their revenge out on Goku and company. They could use some kind of nefarious tool to help give them the power boost or help them escape, aid them in their cause. Come on! This is certainly within the realms of possibility, because we all know that Torio Otaro likes his comic books. A team of lower level bad guys would be a really neat idea. Number 2. Some consequences being established from the usage of the Cerealian Dragon Balls. Please. This needs to happen, or else the entire concept of Dragon Balls will be utterly broken. We don't mind the Cerealian Dragon Balls being a thing and being OP, as long as there is a trick to them, a monkey's paw, a GT-like negative energy overflowing them. Something! Heck, even making it so that means they no longer exist after the saga concludes. Maybe with Monaito succumbing to either old age and giving his life essence to heal Granolah or some other mitigating circumstance. Please just give us that. If you could just gather those two balls over and over again, which have no cooldown time by the way, and be able to create an army made up of the strongest in the universe in a day, that's completely world-breaking, as well as being utterly boring and disingenuous. It's partly to do why we reckon that ultimately, Gas isn't going to be remembered fondly in the years to come. And you can check out our discussion as to why that's the case up top, if you're interested. Even for Dragon Ball standards, this set is completely ridiculous. And well, yes, we know that Granolah sacrificed most of his lifespan using them. We don't know what Gas's condition was as of yet to get that power, but we still find it a little bit over the top in hindsight. This can all be redeemed if there is some kind of event that negates their power, or compromises their use, or removes them entirely. Or maybe it creates some sort of anti-power thing that will give us a Shadow Dragon-like entity forming in the next arc, because we know how much Toyotaro likes the Shadow Dragons from GT. We would be okay with something to justify these balls being so powerful, which makes sense. And if you can't come up with an idea for them, just get rid of them. They can't be left to exist in this timeline. We thought that the Namekian Dragon Balls were OP, but honestly, after seeing this saga, no, they're positively balanced. At least with those, you have to find 7 of them, and there's a 4-month cooldown time. With Torombo's balls, you just need to find 2. Stop it. They may be even more reliable. If nothing is going to be revealed about this particular set, well, I'm sorry to say, but these balls are just fanfiction levels of bad in our book. And we do a lot of fanfiction here on this channel. And it's a shame because Torombo's design is just so dang cool. What a waste if he ends up being imbalanced. Number 3. 7-3, where art thee? Is what the fandom is saying right now, because this is something I know a lot of you out there are curious about. Where is the 3 to the 7? Wasn't he supposed to be an important part of the plot or something? The last time we saw our favourite hit-imitating, power-stealing bio-android was when Elec was keeping him in the fridge behind that one pickle jar that nobody could open and no one knew who actually put it there in the first place. But honestly, he should be fully regenerated by now. After months of training from Goku and Vegeta's part, a lot has happened in this story in the timeline. When Granolah captured him, he was already halfway there. So what? Is he just gonna stay there? In the Heeters' captivity? Never to be seen again? Acting as the Heeters' intelligence? Well, if we had our way, it would be really fun if he could, once more, be the character who carries over the narrative torch to the next saga, transitioning from the Granolah the Survivor arc into the next arc, like he did with Moro. Remember, people liked that idea as it hadn't really been done before in Dragon Ball, certainly not in recent memory. Also, 7-3's creator Goichi is still very much alive and kicking, and he might have something evil prepared to try and get him back. We'd like to see that. This also kind of connects to a possible villain team-up in the future, but we would really love to see more urgency from 7-3 himself, because realistically, wouldn't he want to try and break free and seek his creator, or at least some kind of solace for himself? He's been through a lot. Not only did he lose his only friend in the form of Shimaraka, but he also got fought by a Ram Man, and that's rough, buddy. It would be really neat to see him gaining more independence after all that. Maybe as some kind of redemption arc, the beginnings of it. We are definitely going to be very salty if he winds up being just forgotten, you know? We never see him again. And although his design is not exactly unique, quite literally he has tons of identical twins in the series, and he looks like a recolor of Hit with horns and a face of a koala slapped on his forehead or something. But he was still an interesting and unique fighter. Despite having overwhelming powers, he was pretty balanced, and a lot of great stuff happened surrounding his character. Besides, if you're badass enough to survive being swallowed by Moro, you sort of deserve a second chance. Number 4. Goku shouldn't be that concerned with Bardock and Gine. Look, we don't hate this idea. Not at all. We just got a little bit nettled when it came to its placement within the story. Had this happened earlier on, around about chapter 77, we'd have lapped this up. And while Goku is allowed to be curious about his parents, we don't really like the angle of this being that shocking of a revelation that's going to wind up with him being deeply affected by it. Yes, we do cry out for some character development, especially for Goku, but in this case, remember, you have an over 40-year-old man who kind of knows who he is already, and what Chapter 82 is trying to do is trying to shoehorn in the idea that he's been struggling with his identity. Really? He seems to have been kind of settled for a while, folks. As you all know, this hasn't been Goku's problem at all up until now. He's been quite secure in his lot in life. Even when he found out he was a Saiyan and an alien years ago, he was able to roll with it in the fullness of time. And now thanks to Broly, he's now fully owning it. But if this revelation is going to be the solution that will allow Goku to reach true Ultra Instinct, it'd be extremely bizarre. Goku had a loving upbringing with Grandpa Gohan. He had other parental figures too. And his familial relations up until now have always been very specific. He knows about family. This news could give him a certain curiosity for the future, yes, but please, don't refocus the story on Goku at the last minute by using this particular caveat. It is literally coming out of left field, a last minute decision, which actually handily connects to our next point. Do not let Goku take over the story. Again, one of the things we loved about this saga, from almost the very beginning, was that Goku was actively taking a back seat. He was aware of what was going on around him, and that it wasn't about him. He was supporting Vegeta and Granolah willingly, okay with having his own B-plot, which is perfectly fine. But then suddenly, something that we thought was just going to be a cameo from Bardock wound up becoming key to the story, a B-plot turning into an A-plot, which was jarring at best. We personally do not mind that Bardock saved somebody, but if Goku is going to defeat Gas now by unlocking an ultimate form, thusly leaving Granolah and Vegeta on the sidelines whilst they watch Goku triumph again, that will be extremely anticlimactic. Almost as bad as when Goku stole the win in the Resurrection F saga. Maybe even worse, especially since this is meant to be Granolah's story. And if we're going to be accepting any involvement from Son Goku, the victory would have to be a group effort. Goku, Vegeta, and Granolah working together. Like how we did with 17 and Freeza during the Tournament of Power Goku. But if it does turn out to be Goku who beats up Gas and Elec on his own, at this point you have to wonder, is there something going on in the background here? Whether this is Toyotaro and Toriyama's shortcomings being brought to the fore, like in the shadows there's some sort of contractual obligation, meaning that Goku has to always strike the final blow against any villain, even though it has nothing to do with him? It's hard to say. But we like that this story had its own protagonist. Sure, Granolah has been seen to be frustrating at times, but it seemed like it was an intentional quirk rather than an accident. We liked his dynamic with Vegeta. We liked the exploration of Vegeta's copium, of him trying to help Granolah out, someone with similar problems to him. So to have Goku just barge in unannounced and end up learning nothing in the process, other than that he is really, really awesome and that he just needs to be himself, that is, this might end up being the most underwhelming ending to one of the most experimental Dragon Ball sagas to date. And we would hate that. Come on. Give us that 3-part panel of Ultra Instinct Goku, Ultra Ego Vegeta, and Awakened Granolah working their magic. Together. Show these 3 characters shaped by fate, working together in harmony. That'd be a truly cool ending, you know. Number 6. A Freeza post-credit scene. While we don't want Freeza to be overused in Dragon Ball Super, it is very weird that despite him being so involved in the story itself in the beginnings, that he hasn't shown up in the saga at all, despite him being mentioned countless times, and the original story beats being related to his actions and forces from decades ago. It would be a very Freeza thing to do though, if he were aware of everything that had been going down on planet Cereal, and he just chose to watch from the shadows, seeing his rivals, Goku, Vegeta and Elec, going at each other's throats, and him ready to pick up the pieces should the need arise. It would be funny seeing Freeza watching, overjoyed, as his problems quickly solve themselves. It would play out nicely too with his modern attitude and outlook on life. Number 7. Closure for Granolah. While he was annoying at times, we kind of grew to like this fellow once we saw the entire picture. And we kind of wish that we want him to find happiness in the remaining 3 years that he has left, you know? It would be anticlimactic if someone reversed the wish, though we may have a feeling that Monito could sacrifice his life to make this somewhat acceptable, we could realistically see this troubled individual finally finding inner peace with himself. We kinda got used to him in Oatmeal, and we really hope that he won't end up as being a mere plot device for Goku to become even more obscenely powerful. After all, this is Granolah's story, and hopefully the ending will be as good as his initial, very effective introduction. So here are our hopes. We are sure that not all of them will be met, but if the ending could just, tick at least 3 of those boxes, that'd be great. And anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Catch you later!